Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part four of our discussions for teachers about emotional fallout from the classroom. So today I'm joined by Gail Page, and she is a personal development coach, and she's here today to help us to navigate our thoughts, validate our feelings, and help to find your voice and speak and step into your power. Sorry. So we know, Gail, that a lot of teachers are experiencing difficulties within the classroom. There's a lot of autonomy that seems to have been taken away. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of change in demand. There's a lot of general tricky conversations, I think, for teachers that they want to have, and maybe even senior leaders that they want to have too. I think teachers are perhaps a little bit in the middle. They want to have tricky conversations with their employers, and maybe there are tricky conversations to also have with maybe their parents that are coming in with the parents of their students. So we've spoken a little bit, haven't we, before about this? And let's talk about, first of all, the validity of those feelings, because I think for a lot of people, they're probably sitting there thinking, should I be minding about this? Should I be worrying about that?
Yeah. So thanks for inviting me on, Georgina. I'm looking forward to it. So I think where feelings are concerned, we're all very good at trying to tell ourselves that we shouldn't be feeling like this because nobody wants to feel bad. And we also see it as a judgment about ourselves. Well, this person is managing to cope, so I shouldn't be feeling bad about this. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. The trouble is, if we don't allow ourselves to identify our feelings and validate them, then those feelings go inwards and often end up showing up as a physical dis-ease.
Mm,
Things like gut issues, indigestion, sore throats. Often, when my clients come and see me, they may have a cough or they may have a sore throat or sinusitis. And
mm,
I'll ask them what was going on a few days, a couple of weeks before that showed up. And often, initially, they'll go, oh, nothing. And then maybe a few minutes later, they'll go, oh, well, there was this situation. And often, if you get a cough, it's because you've got something you need to get off your chest.
mm,
You have a sore throat, it's because you're pushing down words that you really want to get out. Sinuses is often a sign of irritation for someone. So it pays to be aware of the physical feelings that you're getting and ask yourself, I wonder where they're coming from. Because we don't do that. And if we did, we might be surprised at what the answer might be. So I think it's about recognizing that any feeling that you feel is valid because they're your feelings. And I always say to people, if you've got a lot of feelings and you're not quite sure how to deal with them, because often it can get pretty overwhelming, if you've got lots of different feelings sort of running around in the attic of your mind. And I always say to people, get yourself 3 pieces of A4 paper, write down everything that's in your mind. And then when you've finished, and this is keep the pen going,
mm,
and then when you've finished, without reading it, that's the most important part, without reading it, rip it up and burn it, and then throw the ashes to the four winds, and then say, I now let go of the hold that this used to have over me. I cannot tell you how cathartic that is because you're literally emptying out everything that's sitting in here that's been bugging you for ages.
yeah.
That way, you've got a clear head, you've got mental capacity to deal with all the other stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good exercise. I used to do a lot of that kind of thing of just writing stuff down, sending a letter to somebody and then tearing it up. But I didn't do that following step that you've spoken about. Um, but that resonates with me so much about the sore throats. Crikey, I used to have tonsillitis type symptoms so often. I'm not sure that doesn't surprise you, Gail, from what you know of me already. So after that step, um, what's the next step for teachers? They've done that side of things, but if they feel that they need to have a discussion with a senior management team, their supervisor, or maybe even with a parent, it can be difficult, can't it? Knowing where to start and what to say. So, what would you say is the first step?
Well, I have a framework called STEPS. It's 5 steps to having changing a difficult conversation into a learning opportunity. So the first step is to set your intention because so many people go into a conversation and they don't actually know what it is that they want to achieve. They don't know what outcome they want. And I always say, if you don't know what outcome you're working towards, how will you know when you get there?
Mm,
You won't. And I think that's part of the reason that people end up having to have a difficult
mm,
conversation because when they get going in the conversation, they're scrambling around in their head thinking, crikey, what am I going to say next? What do I want to happen? And because they haven't thought it through before they go into the conversation, that's when it becomes a difficult conversation. Plus the fact that fear jumps on board. And because they're not sure how to go about it, what could have just been a conversation actually becomes a difficult conversation in their minds. So know what it is you want the outcome to be. That is so crucial. Know what the purpose is. The next step is to take responsibility for your part in the conversation. If you want someone to talk to you with respect, you have to talk to them with respect. Respect begets respect. The third step is to express yourself calmly and clearly. Often, when we're trying to get something out and we're not sure how the other person is going to view it, we rush
mm,
and our words fall all over each other. And it just comes out this garbled noise. Whereas if we talk slowly, I'm not talking about, talk slowly. Although there are times when that can come in handy. But what I'm saying is, rather than saying, this is what I want to achieve at the end of the conversation, this is what I need from you, and this is what you can expect from me. Rather than doing that, because that's often what happens, is just take a breath.
mm.
And then when you know, as hopefully you've worked that out before you get into the conversation, just take a breath and then say to the person, this is what I'm looking to get from this conversation. And I'm really interested to hear what you would like to take away from it as well.
Mm,
Because then it becomes an inclusive, we conversation, not a I. And if we can maintain a tone that is open and assertive, and I just need to clarify about assertive.
I was going to ask you that.
You might, I thought you might, because even in dictionaries, the word assertive has got aggressive in the explanation, which does my head in, literally, because to me, assertion is just about speaking openly
Mm,
and with respect, sharing your viewpoints and your opinions, and affording those same things to the other person. That's it.
mm.
And if we can do that, we're much more likely to be heard.
But what do we do in a situation where the other person isn't willing to come to the conversation with that same, I'm going to use the word tone, it's not the right word, I know, but might view you as being aggressive because you're setting your boundaries. I know we're going to talk about setting boundaries later on, but you're setting out your stall, as I call it,
Yeah,
what you're
yeah.
willing to accept and willing not to accept. You know. And some people still view that as aggressive because they might not be used to you probably even having that change of tone, So if you take your 5 steps, they might be very surprised by the way you're coming to that conversation if you were a different communicator in a different way. So you might take them aback slightly.
I think it's like everything. Tone is everything. Doesn't matter so much what the words are. It's the
Mm,
tone to deliver them with. And where the steps is concerned, it's very, very easy, especially if you're not used to doing it, to get into the I've got to get them to hear what it is I'm going to say, so I'm going to gird my loins and I will make them listen. That's not going to get you anywhere because you will bring that tone with you.
mm,
Yeah. So I think where I'm concerned, I always say to people, I'm just going to finish off the steps for you,
mm.
and then we look at the tone. So pausing and listening is crucial because if we don't pause and actually listen, we're already formulating what it is we think the other person is going to say.
Yeah,
Then we're looking for a way to deal with that before they've even finished speaking.
yeah,
And it's really hard not to fall into that. But if we want to be able to have a respectful and honest and open conversation, that's what we need to do. So by taking that breath, pausing and listening to understand and to connect, rather than just listening for that person, taking a breath so we can jump in with
yeah,
ours,
yeah,
which we all tend to want to do. Yeah, 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 but you need to listen to me. You need to listen to me. Well, no, this is a dialogue, not a monologue.
mm,
And when you've paused and listened, often it's really good to be able to reflect back to that person. So, this is what I think I heard you say. Am I on the right track? Because often we assume that we know what they've said and meant. Whereas if we say to them, this is what I think I heard you say, that gives them the opportunity to say, well, yeah, kind of, but this is what I meant. So it just gives space for mutual understanding. Yeah. And the last step is to seek solutions together. As I said, this is not about me, it's not about you, it's about us.
mm,
So if we can look at you've set your purpose for having the meeting, and it's not just about, okay, we've had this discussion, that's it, off we go. It's about exploring where you want to go moving forward. What does a good outcome look like for you? This is what a good outcome looks like for me. You're just reiterating where you started off from. And what can we both commit to doing moving forward? So there's no point having a conversation unless you have next steps.
yeah,
And when you've worked out what those next steps are, then you can say, let's catch up about this in a few days' time. Are you free on this day or that day? Which day works best for you? Because that way you're also committing to mutual accountability.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Going back to tone, if you think about what's a commonly used phrase or sentence, let's use something. What's a commonly used phrase or sentence that you would use in school or with your colleagues?
Well, that's a tricky one for me because I'm not usually in a school setting.
Any common thing that you can think on? Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you one. I don't want you to take this the wrong way. Okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
quite often people will say, I don't want you to take this the wrong way.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether it's school or socially, does it? Yeah,
Exactly, that's right. And these are tools that you can use with in any setting
yeah,
because it has to come from within here. Yeah. So I don't want you to take this the wrong way. So do not ever use that phrase. Because if you use that phrase, even if the person wasn't going to take it the wrong way,
They are now.
reframe it and they will think, oh, okay, so I need to just be aware of what she's saying because I might take it the wrong way. So that's the first thing. Always set it up in a positive frame, whatever it is you're going to say. But we'll use that phrase, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. So if you put the emphasis on the I don't want you to take this the wrong way, that implies that somebody else might want you to take it the wrong way. I don't want you to take this the wrong way sounds as if it's power over. I don't want you to take it the wrong way. Can you see the difference that the tone will make?
Mm,
I don't want you to take it the wrong way. Well, you might want somebody else to take it the wrong way. So using tone, I always say to people, if you imagine that the person that you're talking to has an inner child, because we all have an inner child,
sure do.
we, but I mainly talk to people about the 4-year-old and the 13-year-old. So if you are finding that people are getting combative with you, often that's their 13-year-old going, oh, I'm not going to take that.
Mm,
So they'll come out fighting. Or if you find that people withdraw from you, often that's like the 4-year-old in them thinking,
yeah,
oh, I don't feel very safe here. I don't like what's going on here.
yeah,
So they withdraw. We all do it. And I always say to people, before you go woof and react, take a breath and ask yourself, if it's somebody going on the attack, ask yourself, I wonder what's going on for their 13-year-old. Just asking yourself that question will totally change the tone and the way that you deliver whatever it is that you want to say next.
yeah,
Because you wouldn't have a go at a 13-year-old. You would try to understand what was going on for them. In the same way that if they're coming from a withdrawal, that's their 4-year-old. How would you talk to a 4-year-old? Because remember, yes, we might have adult bodies sitting in front of us, but we've also got all the younger selves that have had things said and done to them,
yeah,
that there's perhaps unfinished business. And when someone says something that triggers that person, it's like an old wound that hasn't been healed. I bet you've been in a situation where you'll say something and somebody will just go woof, and you think, what the heck just happened there?
yeah.
Yeah. And that's because something that you said triggered an old wound that hasn't been dealt with.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I can see that's resonating. So, yeah. So I think that being aware of your tone and being aware that if you see a reaction from someone, whether they really crank it up and get really aggressive or angsty, or if they start to withdraw, this is not all about you.
Yeah,
Although we all think it's about us, it's not all about us. We have to be aware of what might be going on for the other person.
yeah. And I think as well, if you're a teacher and needing to have a conversation with a senior leader, don't assume because they're a leader, they've dealt with their issues.
Well, I can tell you from experience, just because someone has a title, we expect those people to have all their stuff together,
Hmm.
but they don't. And they will have a lot of things going on that we have absolutely no idea about. And that's why I say to people, if you can go in with an open mind and an open heart, and you come from that, excuse me, that perspective, you will be amazed at the difference it makes.
Yeah, yeah. Because even senior leaders, they've got their stuff going on and they've
Oh,
not got it all together at work, at home, still human beings.
Oh, totally. And a lot of people who are in positions of so-called authority, they've started off being really good at something, and then they may shine at something else. And oh, you should become a
Yeah,
leader. You should do this. You should do that. And half the time, they've never been given the support that they need.
totally.
That's although I do professional development with leaders and their teams, I like to start with the personal development because it's the person that we need to work with first before we can work with the professional hat that they wear.
Yeah, I know that's a conversation that Rebecca and I have had about people's and changing careers. Some teachers have gone into teaching and then become managers, and they're no longer teaching in this the job that they went into and had the passion and the desire for. And like you say, they've not been equipped to manage. And a lot of them are probably feeling quite out of their depth actually within that role.
Totally, because nobody, you can be superbly skilled at something technical or something that you actually trained for. Then all of a sudden, oh yeah, you'd be really good at this. In you go. And that's it, you're left, and it's sink or swim because people assume that because you're good at what you do, you'll transfer those skills into a management position.
Mm,
But if no one's ever been there to support you in the journey, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
mm,
Yeah, a lot of, well, probably underlying imposter syndrome going on there, I would imagine.
I see it all the time. Don't get me wrong, we all have imposter syndrome at one time or another.
Yeah,
Everyone does. I
yeah.
can remember when I got my first team building opportunity. I'd never done team building before. I had run workshops, and I'm thinking, crikey, ooh, I'm not a team builder. But luckily, I had the tools to work through it. But even then, before I went in to do it, I thought, ooh. But at the end of the day, it's all about the self-talk that we have.
Yeah, that's something we want to chat about in a moment or two as well, isn't it? So the next thing we were going to talk about was setting boundaries, wasn't it? And that sort of also leads to that sort of inner leadership, doesn't it, as well?
Mm. That's right. And I think people have the wrong idea about setting boundaries. Especially if you've had what I call elastic boundaries in the past.
Hmm.
So you might set boundaries sometimes or with some people, and then there are other times you think, oh no, it feels too hard, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And it's being very, very clear, pardon me, in what are your expectations of the person that you're talking with in terms of what you will allow regarding behaviors and the way that someone talks with you and what you won't allow. And often what happens is because we're so desperate to get this message across to the other person or the other people, as we said earlier, you go into it very, very quickly, and often your tone sounds combative
Mm.
because, oh my goodness, I need to set my boundaries. I need to keep my boundaries firm. And because I need to do that and I'm not used to doing it, oh crikey, what they're going to think, well, I'm just going to tell them. Yeah. And that's often the self-talk that they have about setting the boundaries. But it's just about being very clear, A, with yourself. What is my boundary and why am I setting it? And how will it benefit me from having this boundary? And it sounds so simple, but like a lot of things that sound simple, not always easy to do.
No, I think when you're in that moment as well, especially there's been no preparation behind it and it's a knee-jerk reaction. It's whether you're in the conscious or the unconscious brain as well at that point, isn't it?
That's it. And I think that's why it's so important for people to actually work out with themselves, what are my boundaries? If somebody talks over me in a meeting, am I going to allow that to pass? Or am I going to do something about it? And there are times where it is appropriate to leave it be. I can remember I was doing a talk And I was relating a story about one of the groups that I had worked with, and I was just getting to the main clincher. And this person in the audience who I knew and who did similar work to me said, "Sorry to interrupt you, Gail, but he says, I had something just the same," and proceeded to tell his story. Now, inside, I was fuming. And I had to make a decision there and then. Do I stop him and make him look stupid?
Mm,
Or do I stop him and show, well, look at me, I can stop people, I can make them feel like that?
mm,
Or do I leave it be because my need to be seen and heard was not as big as his need? So, for whatever reason, he needed to be seen and heard in that moment. There are, however, times where I would never put up with it. And anybody who knows me knows I wouldn't, as you know. And one of the things, that's why I'm saying to people, work out what boundaries you are prepared to keep firm and work out which boundaries people are allowed to cross a tiny bit, but
yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Because that way you don't get in the deer in headlights. Oh my goodness, I've got to put my boundaries in place now. And
yeah,
then you've got all this internal dialogue going on, and we usually mess it up.
yeah. I know thinking here, this is sort of making me think about the teacher and maybe a parent conversation, especially in my field. I know there are probably likely a lot of parents going in to talk to teachers, Senkos, even school leaders, and they will have a very, very strong agenda about what they want for their child. And to be honest, they may well have felt that their child was failed in another setting, maybe, or generally that they're not feeling that child needs are getting met. And I know from speaking to a lot of parents, they are going to go in with a very firm boundary, as in, I'm not going away unless I have got X, Y, and Z for my child. And I know that's going to be really, really tricky conversations for anybody. Um, and I think, a lot of things that you've spoken about there are really, really going to come into play with those sorts of conversations as well. And thinking about setting boundaries too in my model of a franchise, if teachers are interested in being part of that, it's something that you very much have to learn to do when you are self-employed. I have learned a lot over those years about how you set those boundaries. Things like what time of day you're going to communicate with somebody. What happens if they turn up and they haven't got any money to pay for the session? And all these things have happened in the past.
Could imagine, yeah. I think also, though, where boundaries are concerned, we, as I said earlier, we tend to sort of want to make sure that people understand.
Mm,
And that's when the tone changes.
mm,
And especially if a parent is coming in, I've got a daughter and I would go through hell to make sure that she got what she needed. And I can remember it was a parents' evening and I was invited, along as you do. And the teacher was saying to me, of course, she's always talking about the holidays that she's been on. And my internal dialogue, I will not tell you what it was, but I'm sure you can guess. I would have loved to have gone back at the teacher, go woof like this at her. That's my daughter you're talking about. But I think as parents, we need to remember that the person that we're talking to also deals with our child. And
mm.
it's a totally different part of that child.
Yeah,
And as teachers, it can be very, very easy to want to defend what it is we're saying. And once again, the tone can get lost.
yeah,
And rather than trying to defend, I think it's always useful to start off with letting the other person know that we have heard them. Not by saying, I hear what you say, because that can be taken as, oh, here we go again. I hear
yeah,
him.
yeah.
About saying, this sounds as if it's really, really important for you. Just that one phrase will make the parent go, oh, okay, even if they're wound up.
Yeah, it's quite diffusing, isn't it?
Exactly, that's right. And we have to mirror and pace. So if we want somebody's rattling on at us and they're really loud and they're up here, we need to be able to bring them down.
Mm.
Not by saying, oh, calm down, but at least saying that. And I think to myself, why are you saying calm down? Because there's nothing more infuriating for someone who's raw being told to calm down.
What's a better phrase people can use in that situation?
I'm trying to hear what it is you're saying. So I just need you to bring your voice down just a little bit so I can hear clearly, because I
Mm,
want to help you find some kind of way forward from this. Because there are different ways of looking at this. Some people say, if somebody's shouting at you, then go up there and join in with them and then gradually bring them down.
okay.
Other ways of looking at it where if somebody's go raw up here and you say, yes, I'm trying to hear what it is you're saying, and you're down here. I think you have to gauge each one on their merit. I prefer to look the person in the eye, not "Ooh" at them, just look them in the eye and say to them, this sounds as if it's really quite difficult for you. And I'd love to help you find a way forward. So let's work on what it is that's actually going on for you and see if we can find a way forward together. And using that kind of tone, even if somebody stays up here, keep your tone, keep the calm tone, and say to them, I appreciate that. And I would love to help you find a way forward because eventually they will be hearing, I want to help you find a way forward.
Mm. Probably not going to come across the first time, but
No, because they've wound themselves up before they've even walked in your door,
mm,
because they've written a script of how you're going to be.
yeah.
They've written the script of what it is they need to say. And when they come in, that's what they expect it all to be. But because we don't know what script they've written,
Yeah.
and we may have written our own script as well, that's another
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
It's just being cognizant of the energy that that person brings in. And if you can feel the energy is way up here, it's keeping your energy centered. There's a wonderful, I think it's a Hawaiian modality, and it's called Ho'oponopono. And it's by Dr. Hugh Lin, I think it is. And he cured a ward of criminally insane patients, and he never met one of them once.
Okay.
He went through everybody's case notes and he said these four phrases: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Now that sounds so simple. There's no way that could happen. Surely. Well, I know for a fact it can because I had to go to a very, very difficult meeting with somebody I was coaching, and we had to go and meet with his CEO. And I was basically going to have to sack him because he was putting all these roadblocks up. I knew why he was doing it because I was getting in and he couldn't handle that. And I had an hour and a half's drive to get there. And the whole way there, I was saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, out loud. When I got there, he was making all these kinds of accusations about why I wasn't listening to him, and he's a very busy person, so I should go to him and him not come to me. All these things, and the whole time he was talking, in my mind, all I was doing was saying, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you." At the end of it, we agreed that we would leave it, and I said to him, "Thank you so much for sharing your perspective. All I want to say to you is, I appreciate you doing that. And when and if the time comes that you are ready to continue, I will be more than happy to continue to coach you. He gave me a big hug, looked me in the eye, and he said, I know. So he knew that I knew why he was behaving the way he did. After he left, the CE said to me, how the hell did you keep your cool when he was giving it rah, rah, rah at you? So I introduced him to Ho'oponopono, and he uses it a lot. I cannot recommend it highly enough. If you're in a situation where you can feel yourself getting wound up and all you want to do is go "Rrr" at that other person, take a breath and go through Ho'oponopono in your mind. I have yet to meet anyone that it didn't work for.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to conclude things there, Gail, actually. Very naturally, not scripted in any way.
Indeed. So I hope that that has given your listeners some tools that they can use. And remember, at the end of the day, any conversation that you think is going to be difficult will be,
Mm,
because the most difficult conversation we ever have is the one that we have in here.
yeah,
So when you're going to go into a conversation, see it as having a positive outcome where everybody feels that they've been listened to, they've been heard, they've been understood, and they feel connected to the other person.
perfect. Thank you, Gail.
My pleasure.
If you'd like to contact Gail Page and learn more about her services, here are her contact details on LinkedIn. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about my franchise and setting up your own tuition business, you can also contact me on this email here. Thanks so much for your time today.